Hey ladies, wake up. It is not a dream. The guilt and the shame over eating bad foods is gone. I'm Lisa Dahl, intuitive eating and body image health coach. I now take my past dieting experience and support women to break free from dieting so that they can learn how to undiet their lives and they too can be happy, healthy, and confident at any size. In this video today, I'm going to be sharing what it's like to go through an intuitive eating journey. So there are 5 stages in this practice, and today I'm going to be specifically diving into stage 4. But I'm going to quick give you the recap of the previous stages and so that you can be caught up. So the first stage is hitting diet rock bottom, also known as readiness. When you're there, you have been dieting, you're off your diet, you're on your diet, you're off your diet, and now you've hit diet rock bottom. The thought of going on one more diet has you ready to pull your hair out. You just don't know yet that there is another choice. And that is why you're watching this video, because I'm going to share with you that there is a choice when you hit diet rock bottom. You don't need to dig a little bit deeper for that willpower. We don't need willpower anymore. So when you take that first step to say, you know what, I'm in. I'm going to see what the other side looks like. That is going to bring you to the exploration stage. And during this stage, it's also known as being in the pursuit of pleasure. And what that means is that you are ready to start to make choices that make you feel good. We're letting the diet rules go by the wayside and focusing on what makes us feel good in the pursuit of pleasure. The third stage is called crystallization, a fancy name for all the things are starting to come together. You're noticing what you are practicing is starting to work, and it still takes time and effort, and we're always going to be in the practice. What you are working towards with all of these new actions and behaviors is having your intuitive eater in you awaken. So that is the 4th stage. And I like to refer to this stage as the intuitive eater in you reawakens. And the reason why I say reawakens is because we are all born intuitive eaters. So as babies, we were able to naturally learn to honor our hunger. We were able to give clues to our caregivers or our parents. We would suck our fingers, we would cry, all ways that we would communicate that we're hungry. And then when we were full, we would turn our heads away, or we would, push the bottle away, or just every way to say, you know what, I'm done. We found joy in discovering our toes and playing with our bellies. And when our parents or caregivers would play with us and touch us and hold us, we enjoyed the connection. We were connected with our mind, our bodies, our food. We were all in one. Somewhere along the way, we became disconnected. And that could have happened in several different ways. One of the most common ways is somebody quietly tells you or pulls you aside and they say, kind of like, maybe you shouldn't have that. Maybe it's time for you to start watching. And that guilt and the shame just kind of burns in you and it simmers for years and years to come. Or you watched your mother who dieted and had all these food rules, and she would cook and she would bake and she would make all this delicious food for everyone around her except for herself. That was definitely one of the things that I did as a former caterer. I cooked and baked all day long, and it was always for somebody else. And I was filled with that guilt and shame of when I would sneak food that I so lovingly prepared for everybody else. And through this journey of being disconnected, those thoughts all became nurtured through big pharma or through the diet industry. And they played on your emotions. They taught you the false belief that a thinner body is a better body. They taught you that a thinner body is a healthier body. And those things are simply not true. The only thing true is that they have created over a $78 billion industry playing on making you feel horrible and at war with your food and body. Through the practice of intuitive eating and through the body, peace, and food freedom methodology, you learn to be the expert on you And this is where your intuitive eater in you reawakens, because you have taken the time, the patience, and the practice, and all of it is starting to come together. So what does that look like? So what's so great about the intuitive eater awakens? Well, what would it feel like if I told you during this stage, your eating, any meal, any snack came with ease? You were no longer stressed every time that you were thinking about eating. You began to consistently choose foods that you wanted versus what you were told to eat, and you were able to honor your hunger. You had a greater choice of foods because you no longer had that list of good foods or bad foods. As a former Weight Watcher, how many times I know that I used to go to that book and I would look at the points and I would say, okay, it's this many grams of fiber and this many grams of fat, and the higher the fiber, the lower the fat, the more food that I could eat. Now you get to choose foods that you want to eat that's going to satisfy your hunger. And you have a greater ease in stopping when you're full. And the reason for that is because when you are connected with your mind and your body and your food, you're no longer worried that I don't know when I'm going to eat again. When we honor our hunger, we have a greater capacity to understand our fullness, and we don't have to eat to overfull as often as we used to. Sometimes we just do because it tastes delicious, but we're not doing it because we don't know when that food is coming again. You begin to choose naturally more nutrient dense, what you would quote as the healthier foods. You're not choosing them because they're on the good food list. You choose foods because they make you feel better. You notice, you become aware on how whatever foods that you are eating, some, quote unquote healthy foods might make you feel like crap, but they're on that list of it's a good food, so you tend to eat it because you're supposed to eat it. You learn to discover that you choose foods that make you feel good. And you don't feel bad when you discover that foods don't make you feel good, because now it's a choice. You gain choice. You gain to be the expert on you. You are physically, mentally, and emotionally feeling significantly better. You have noticed that your binges are starting to decrease. And again, this goes back to when you have the freedom to eat, you don't have to starve yourself all day and then binge at night. The word guilty pleasures starts to dissipate. And the guilty pleasure thing really came home to me this morning. I was on a call with a group of women, and one of the women suggested, why don't we go meet at this ice cream place? And if you're local to us, it's Kimball's, which has amazing and huge full portions, and it's an experience. And it was followed by the statement of, I know it's not on my diet. And having been her, it cut me to the core. It sucked the wind out of me that here was this fun experience, looking to gather women, looking to have conversation. And it was negated by the words, it's not on my diet, and that guilt and the shame of wanting to do something pleasurable. So reimagine this experience, and somebody says, oh, let's go meet at the ice cream place. And you say, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And you can choose your flavor. You don't just have to have limited by the taste. You get to eat what you want, how much you want. Being present, clued in, understanding your hunger, feeling your fullness, it becomes a choice. You are now able to cope with your emotions, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom. I'm not saying that these things don't happen. You're able to notice when they sink in, and you're also able to sit in the yuck and wait for them to dissipate with whatever skills and tools that you have learned, that we have helped you discover. And sometimes food is the answer, and it's not followed by the guilt and shame. You have a toolbox filled with tools. You are able to talk to yourself with kindness, and you're noticing the conversations around you, and you now have the skills to deflect. Imagine going out with your friends, because we know that it is so easy to get into that body bashing when we are meeting with women and deciding what to eat for lunch, and you're looking at the menu and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. you learn to have the capacity to deflect from that conversation and to only start to create kindness on when you're talking to yourself. Your self-talk has improved significantly. You have removed the guilt and the shame about your body. And when you remove the guilt and shame about your body, you also remove the judgment that you have about everybody else's body. You have learned to appreciate that all bodies, no matter what shape, no matter what size, no matter what, I'm going to stay out of politics, but shape and size. You have learned to accept that all bodies are good bodies, that there is no best body. The best body is the one that you have. And as long as you are living and breathing, that is the best body that you have. There's more right with your body than wrong with your body. You have learned to truly appreciate your inner qualities and that you are no longer set up on a good day or a bad day based on the number on the scale. And by now in this stage, I hope that that scale has been thrown out the window and broken into 1,000 different pieces. So it is a practice to get through the practice of intuitive eating. But when you get to these stages, you start to notice you have your life back. So to recap, it's your actions and your behaviors that create new thoughts, that create peace of mind. Your eating has become easy and natural and less stressful. And you have said goodbye to the guilt, the shame, and the body bashing. So if you are ready to learn about the body, peace, and food freedom methodology on how you can have that ease with your relationship with food and body, it's time for us to talk. So be sure to click that link. And if you missed the previous videos, the YouTube links are in there so that you can catch up and understand what the journey is like. And tune in next week when I talk about treasuring the pleasure, because it even gets better than this. Thanks for watching.